Hi, I'm Heather, and today at Spirits Freedom Farm we are making a grain-free peach mountain cobbler. Hi, one of my favorite things to do as a kid was to go to my grandmother's house, and she was such a great cook. She could make a feast out of just a few ingredients. And I was always well fed when I was at Grandma's house, and I loved her recipes, and I've been making them for years. But since developing a wheat allergy, there are some of those favorite recipes that I can no longer eat. So I've been trying to convert some of those, and one of those is mountain cobbler. So today we are going to make Grandma's mountain cobbler without any grains. So one of the first things that it calls to do is to take your casserole dish that you're going to bake the cobbler in and to melt the butter in the pan in the hot oven, and we will do that, and we will be right back to mix the rest. Okay, while the butter is melting in a 375 oven in our glass dish, we're going to start mixing up the other ingredients. The recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of butter melted, then 1 can of peaches, blackberries, or other fruit. So I'm assuming that it means like pie filling, but I'm going to use fresh peaches, and probably more than a can. I've got 4 peaches here that I've cut into 2 smallish pieces. So we're going to put those into a pan, and to it we will add, the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of flour and a quarter of a cup of sugar or more. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put the quarter of a cup of sugar, even though I have more fruit. It's good fruit, I don't need to add a whole lot of sugar. And then the 2 cups of flour that I'm going to put in instead of wheat flour, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of almond flour and 1 tablespoon of tapioca flour. And these will go on the stove, and we will bring those to a boil. Okay, now we are ready to make the crust part of the cobbler. One of the great things about this particular cobbler is that it doesn't have so much a pie crust as a very sweet cake crust, which is one of the things that I like about it. I'm not as much a fan of pie, but this cobbler crust is amazing. So we will take, the recipe calls for 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of milk, and 1 cup of sugar to start off with. So I have here half a cup of almond flour plus another tablespoon. And then in here I have 2 tablespoons of almond flour, 1 tablespoon of arrowroot flour, and 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, and 2 tablespoons of tapioca flour. And I think I got all the flours in there. And there's a pinch of salt in there also. And then we also have our cup of sugar, and I will need a whisk. Mix those up. Now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Mix those in. Now, because we're using baking powder and we're not using the wheat flour, I really want this to rise a little bit. The tapioca flour helps with that, and it'll brown a little bit too. But a little bit of acid will help to activate the baking powder. The recipe calls for 1 cup of milk. You can use cultured buttermilk if you have it, which is slightly acidic, and that will help, but I didn't have any, so I'm going to use regular sweet milk with just a splash of vinegar in it, and that will help to activate the baking powder. We'll mix that in, and we will let it sit. It's got a little bit of coconut flour in it, as I said, and that will take a few minutes to absorb, and it will take a few minutes for the baking soda to get activated with that acid. So we will just leave this sit for a couple of minutes, while our butter melts and our peaches start to cook. And I did add a splash of water in the pan. I forgot to mention that with the peaches so they don't stick and burn. All right, we will be right back to assemble it all together. Okay, our butter has melted in the 375-degree oven. That's 4 tablespoons of butter, if I didn't say that before. Our peaches have come to a boil and are nice and juicy, and our batter is ready to go. So we're going to take our pan with the melted butter, and we'll just kind of swirl it around a little bit just to butter the pan with the melted butter. Be careful not to spill it on yourself because it is very hot. We will take the batter. The batter goes in first. And then the peaches go in. We will pour these right into the center of this dish, and we will not stir or anything else. They will just get poured right into the middle. And that is all. That's all we do. No adjusting or settling. It'll be perfect. Okay. Now we take our dish and we put it back in the oven at 375 for about a half an hour. It'll come out, it will have risen, it will be golden brown, crispy around the edges, and juicy in the middle. Okay, we have our cobbler, which has baked in the oven at 375, probably a little bit longer than it needed to because I got sidetracked, but it doesn't look too badly actually. So we are going to scoop some of this out and give it a taste. Yummy peaches and crust. Drizzle here. Good taste. Very hot. Very, very good. This is great with vanilla ice cream or just plain cream or a loose sweet cream custard that you can make on the stovetop. Excellent. A little too hot to eat. I'm going to burn myself if I eat too much right now, but one more bite. Let me know if you like pie butter or cobbler, and what's your favorite fruit in your cobbler or pie.
Please visit the blog post linked in the video description below for more information about this video and the supplies used.